election will go on as it has in years past here in Indiana.
Secretary of State Connie Lawson says fears of the coronavirus are not enough for voters to get an absentee ballot. We have team coverage. Let's start with News 8's Dan Klein from the newsroom. Dan.
Well, Secretary of State Connie Lawson says if someone is confined to their home because they are isolating, they're not going to the grocery store or running other errands, they can qualify for the medical exemption. That's one of the 11 legal reasons voters can request an absentee ballot for the election in November. Others include you're working all day, you're out of town all day, or you're over the age of 65. But the coronavirus is not a legal reason. But for those who are worried about lines at the polls but are not remaining in isolation, Lawson encourages them to take advantage of early voting, which begins on October 6th. That's 28 days before the election. And the earlier you vote in that 28-day period, the more likely you won't have to wait in line at all.
I want to make it clear that we are going forward with a normal election process here in Indiana. We will not be making changes like we did in the primary since the stay-at-home order has been lifted.
So to vote absentee by mail, the post office is recommending voters request their ballot at least 15 days in advance and mail it back at least 7 days before Election Day. Now, Connie Lawson said that her office is working with the Postal Service on distinctive envelopes to make sure all ballots are prioritized. There's already been 99,000 absentee ballots requested so far, which is almost double the entire amount in all of 2016. Coming up at 6 o'clock, I'll tell you about the sanitizing equipment that will be available for both poll workers and voters. Reporting in the newsroom, Dan Klein, Wish TV, wishtv.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook.
Dan, thank you very much. Plans are now in place to make it easier for Hoosiers to cast their vote. We want to get straight to News 8's Richard Essex for that part of our team coverage. Richard.
Well, Marion County election officials do not want a repeat of the June primary with the long lines and the frustrated voters. The Marion County Election Board has a plan to expand voting centers and to make absentee voting a lot easier.
With less than an hour before the polls closed for the June primary election, there was a healthy line of democracy seekers waiting for their chance. Russell Hollis of the Marion County Clerk's Office told ITMate that the number of polling locations is the reason for the long lines. For the general election, more than 190 polling locations will be open across the county.
You know, I think having 188 vote center locations during the general election instead of the 22 vote center locations during the primary, I think that's a big step.
Another big step is space. Due to the pandemic and social distance requirements for in-person voting, Hollis told ITMate that the election board will open vote centers in two of Indianapolis's largest sports facilities.
Two of the 188 vote center locations are Bankers Life Fieldhouse and Lucas Oil Stadium.
For the first time in a federal general election, Marion County voters can cast their vote at any polling location, which should, according to Hollis, alleviate long lines in the more populated areas.
You know, voters are no longer tied to that one location.
This stack of papers is just a portion of the 20,000 requests for mail-in absentee ballots. The county expects more than 100,000 requests by Election Day, requests that should have specific reasons for not voting in person.
How are we checking to see that these people are complying?
Well, what we do is we make sure that a voter selected a reason. That's as far as we go.
So nobody's really checking?
We just check to make sure they actually made a selection.
Now, starting on October 24th through Sunday, November 1st, Marion County voters can vote early during regular business hours at 5 different locations. Now, Marion County has set up there, these are pretty much the usual areas at Cranor Park and Lawrence Township, Perry Township, and of course downtown. We'll have